Warnock said, "No Bluebirds fan will be able to close their eyes and not think about his beaming smile or one of the goals he scored. And that's the tribute. Supporters will remember him in their own mind and love him as they did." The two men, Warnock and Bamba, both hugely driven, could have blazing rows in the changing room at half-time or even after the final whistle. They would always make up or even laugh about their set too, either soon after or at least by Monday morning. Sol was a man full of fun. He realised a lifelong dream of playing in the Premier League with the Bluebirds, but was still happy to share a joke with the BBC Sport after he scored Cardiff's winning goal at home to Brighton. Bamba was reminded post-match that he should have been booked for removing his shirt. The BBC reported his cheeky response in that distinctive half-Parisian, half-Scottish accent stemming from his time with Dunfermline and Hibernian was classic Bamba. I know, he said. Don't tell anyone. We'll keep it to ourselves." Bamba earned praise for raising awareness of non-Hodgkin lymphoma, campaigning on his podcast for club medical departments to implement more cancer checks. In Cardiff, his favourite Italian restaurant was Stefano's in Ramilly Crescent, Pontcanna, where he regularly took his wife Chloe and children. Sol was a ray of sunshine and I'll miss him so much, said Warnock. I'm so happy that he was part of my life and we had such brilliant memories together. While Bamba was playing for Cardiff City, he told the club's media department about his first memories in football. I repeat those now. This is Sol looking back. British football, he said, watching matches on television with my dad back in 1993-90. At the time, Italy was the best league in the world, but it was very tight, usually 1-0 results. So my dad used to watch the Premier League. He'd say that he loved it because the score was always something like 4-4 and you never knew who was going to win. He used to love that. It's funny that I went on to become a defender. Like every kid, I wanted to score goals. I started off playing up front and was doing okay. But when I needed to find a position at academy level, I was a defensive midfielder. Fortunately, one day, the centre-half missed our bus and I had to play there. I had a good game apparently, and the rest is history. Sol's thoughts on first favourites. That was an easy one for Sol. Paris Saint-Germain, he said. Of course. I was born and raised around Paris, so always followed the side that I called the best club in France. I was fortunate to go on and play for them from when I was 10 years old up to the age of 21. Sol's first club, he said, I played for Paris 11 near my house for 2 seasons and then went on to play for Paris FC. A lot of scouts from all over France used to come and watch us. From there, PSG came and asked me to play for them. There were other interested sides like Auxerre and Monaco, but my mum said it was too far. She would let me play in Paris because I could go back home at weekends and visit. Sol on his favourite boots. He said, when I started playing for Paris 11, they had a partnership with the city council. We used to get a voucher to go and get boots for free. I remember going with my mum and dad to pick up some of my first boots. They were Adidas Copa. I wanted to get colourful boots, but my mum said you have to keep it simple and get black. She said if you're bad in colourful boots, people will notice more. That's the first and best advice my mum gave me about football. The first game he watched? I used to follow my brother, said Sol. He was a good player but had a very bad knee injury. He took me to Parc des Princes to see Paris Saint-Germain. I can't remember who they were playing, but I remember George Weah, and I fell in love with him as a player. That was my first big memory. From that day, I wanted to be a footballer because I wanted to be like George Weah. Sol's heroes. That was simple for Sol. 100% Weah. He added others like Lilian Thuram, who I was fortunate enough to meet. When I was 16 at Paris Saint-Germain, I went to Italy and played Juventus for 6 months, and he was there to look after me. I used to watch Marcel Desailly and love Laurent Blanc as well. But the main one, because of those first memories at Parc des Princes, was George Weah. I was fortunate enough to meet him too when I was at the 2010 World Cup with Ivory Coast. People say don't meet your heroes, but for me it was a pleasure. For all of those years it was my dream to meet him and tell him how much I loved him. Thankfully I managed to do that. Sol's best match scene? In the 1993 Champions League final, Marseille beat AC Milan. They are still the only French club since then to win the Champions League. I was young at the time, and it was one of those moments I realised I wanted to play the game. Obviously, over the years, there have been so many great games, but it's easy for me to pick that one because it was an early, special memory of a big competition. Sol's favourite stadium? He said it would have to be Parc des Princes. Growing up as a PSG fan and seeing so many matches on TV, it was amazing to go there and watch games, let alone play for the club and train there. For me, it's the best stadium in Europe. The best match played in? Sol said, I would have to say the game against Reading when Cardiff City went up. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't a classic. It wasn't about the game though, it was about the whole day. All of my family came to see it. My mum, my dad, my missus, his family, all the kids and everything. It was a special day and we managed to get up. I always dreamed of playing in the Premier League, so I have to pick that one. Sol also spoke about his family in that interview with the Cardiff City media department. He said, I have to give big credit to my mum and dad. Without them, I wouldn't have been where I am, not just in football. The person I became, the way I conduct myself, and the way I raise my kids is all because I had a very good base from my parents. Like a lot of people, we didn't grow up in a very nice area. It would have been easy to go a different way, but for me and my siblings to do something with their lives is a credit to my parents. What about Sol's best goal scored? He picked out Brentford away, saying, that was a special goal and wasn't easy. Even now I don't know how I managed it. While that is the best one I've scored for the club, the most important was my first against Bristol City. It was my first game. I'd just arrived, and if you want to make a big impression, that's the way to do it. We won the game, a local derby of course, and it was a perfect way for me to introduce myself to all of you guys and the fans. It was a special day, a special goal. And if Sol had not been a footballer, I wonder what he would have done. He said, I think I could have been anything. I always talk to my missus about how I wanted to be a doctor, a lawyer, but she always laughs at me and says, no chance. When I started school, my mum said I should be a doctor. She said I have a good heart and like to help people. I told her there's no way, as you have to go to school for years, which wasn't for me. I was fortunate enough to play in an academy from 10 years of age, so didn't have the chance to think about anything but football. His favourite thing about football? He said, football is about discipline, tactics, caring about your teammates, and the responsibility of your playing position. That reflects back onto life with the way you conduct yourself. When you win a game and score a goal, there's no better feeling. That's the same when you've got a target that you reach, whether it's promotion or a cup, etc. Also important is that camaraderie in the dressing room and around the club, along with the relationship with club fans, particularly for me. Sol was an outstanding family man, footballer, and, from what I saw, a friend to all.